So XRP was rejected most recently from its downward trend line, the 200 exponential moving average, the 50 simple moving average, and the 50 exponential moving average. Is this really negative for XRP? Or is there some kind of silver lining? In today's video, we are going to be jumping into the technical analysis for XRP, reviewing where the price action is heading on the daily and weekly time frames. As I get into today's video, do smash that like button, guys. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, subscribe and stay up to date with all of the content that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. So let's go ahead and start things off by taking a look at what's going on here for XRP on our daily time frame. Okay, so we do have our downward trend line. Okay, this started up here on the 11th of March. Okay, we got a secondary test of this trend line right up here on the 9th of April. And then basically a couple days ago, we got this rejection on the 6th of May. On the white line, the 200 exponential, the yellow line, the 50 simple moving average, and then of course the blue line, the 50 exponential moving average as well. Okay, so we have a very clear lower high situation going on. Okay, and we also can see that this extends to the situation that we have over here with lower lows as well. Okay, so the question really becomes, is this really bad for XRP, or is this actually just a part of a process that XRP has to go through? Obviously, I believe more in the latter. I don't think this is necessarily an awful thing for XRP, considering everything that is going on with the SEC versus Ripple, right? That particular lawsuit is dragging its heels. It has done for the last 4 years almost, right? And so we want to kind of acknowledge that whilst the case is kind of undecided, we want a couple of things to happen from a technical analysis standpoint. We want a nice corrective action to kind of reset all of the momentum indicators. This will allow us to then have upward momentum basically they're ready for when the case kind of gets settled. Now, obviously, whether you believe that Ripple is wrong and XRP is a security, or whether you believe that the SEC are just overreaching and essentially are really bad for the space, the case in itself, regardless of your kind of belief, is actually critically important to the future of crypto. Obviously, in the news today, we did see a few interesting things, specifically with the US House of Representatives basically trying to overturn a bill that will see basically the traditional banks being able to be custodians of cryptocurrency assets. And I think it's not a stretch to then think of the centralized banks as future exchanges, like future cryptocurrency exchanges. You already see this with Revolut. Revolut is a bank that I use, a digital bank over here in the UK, although I am in the UAE now, over in Europe. And I imagine that over in the States as well, that they've heard of Revolut and do use it from time to time. They've actually been pro-crypto for quite a while, and they've just launched their own cryptocurrency exchange. And you can see how things are kind of playing out here. Okay, you've got Joe Biden, who basically wants to veto it. You've got Trump, who says Biden doesn't even know what crypto is, and if you vote Trump, then everything's going to be great from a crypto point of view. There's definitely a lot of politics going on. There's a lot of narratives that have been spun, and so until things kind of settle from all of that point of view, I'm quite happy for XRP to kind of just range, kind of just be in this kind of area, because once we kind of get positivity around the Ripple versus SEC, once we get positivity around the US elections, whether we get clarity from a US standpoint, XRP should be well positioned, in my opinion, right? So the moves to the downside here are very much aligned to the last XRP video that I did. If you didn't check that out, you should check it out. And another reason to say stay subscribed to the channel, right? Because you're going to miss out on some of this these kind of ideas of what's going on and why things are happening the way that they are. And we can see that we do have this potential move, right? We're talking about 33.46 to 46.16. It is a bit of a deep move, but not as deep as this low range down here at 28 to 33. Okay, we do know that there's an area of support that we've tapped into previously as well, coming in at between 41 and 42.53. So the price action at the moment, where it currently sits, actually isn't in a bad position at all, right? We can see here that actually it's above some of these key areas, and on the smaller time frames, which you'll find probably from other channels trying to kind of convince you that everything is great and not a problem, you do have, of course, this idea of higher lows, and now we actually have a higher high coming in here as well, although this is more of an ascending wedge than anything else, if you trade patterns, that is. So for the most part, XRP isn't actually doing anything unusual, right? If you're following the previous video, this is very much aligned to kind of what we were expecting to see. We were looking for rejection from the 200 EMA, from the 50 SMA, and from the 50 EMA, and we see that consistently, right? And so, as I often say, what we want to do here is we want to be able to trade XRP if we're traders, right? If we're traders and we want to kind of use a little bit of leverage and we want to take advantage of the market conditions, then we want to be looking at the market through the lens of a trader, right? Not an emotional retail investor, right? There's different ways of analyzing the market. A trader is going to look at this and say, this is a clear rejection. Not only were we running out of momentum to the upside, we could see rejection on that 200 EMA there. So what they would have done is they would have put their short position right in here, tight stop loss just above, right? And they would target out a little bit lower in the price chart. Okay, the higher high on the wick side of things is maybe going to put a few people off the idea of a short position, but you can still see here downward momentum. Now that's only on your daily time frame, of course, because if we take a look at the daily time frame, you can see here that we are correcting. We are seeing a shift in the momentum to the downside. Okay, so we were overbought and we're coming down towards the oversold area, right? We've still got quite a way to go on the daily time frame. But we do have an oversold situation on the 8-hour and 4-hour, which means we're likely to see some volatility, probably bouncing back up towards the 50 EMA, 50 SMA, 200 EMA on the kind of smaller time frames, right? So do expect a little bit of positivity here, and that's the trading opportunity as well, right? Because you could, of course, go long if we get a closed position above that 200 EMA. That's going to be really positive on the daily time frame. Tight stop loss and go long and target out those slightly higher ranges. Okay, where we are at the moment is a clear bearish structure. Lower lows and lower highs with basically closed positions lower than the 200 day exponential, the lower than the 50-day simple moving average, and lower than the 50-day exponential moving average, right? So we're bearish on XRP for now, but I do look for a breakout situation to happen, because as momentum resets across these different time frames, we're likely to see a closed position above that 200-day EMA and a breakout of this downward trend. And that breakout is going to be the key to basically seeing us with a real good strong surge to the upside for XRP. Okay, so for the most part, I'm not too concerned over this most recent price action. This price action looks pretty good, and I'm quite happy to kind of see this thing kind of consolidate, kind of just trade range sideways. Gives you more time to accumulate, right? As a retail investor, an emotional retail investor, this is prime opportunity to be slowly dollar cost averaging into XRP for the longer term. We roll this up into our weekly time frame. You can see just how much ranging market has been going on, right? We hit our high, our expected high, of course, that we predicted out at 93 cent. And then, of course, we can see here that we're still looking at this corrective action. Okay, we are still looking for this potential move downwards, but it is just all corrective. And what I mean by that is it's a short-term movement. Although it's taken a long time to play out, it isn't not a trend to the downside on this macro scale. Okay, so we do have lower highs, of course, and lower lows, yes, but it is basically just ranging between two key areas, the higher range and the lower range, right? And we can see that we haven't really had a closed position lower than 48.72 cent on this weekly time frame for a very, very long time. The last closed position was actually when we actually had this breakout. So it was July 2023, right? We haven't closed lower than that level. And so we can see here that basically, as long as price kind of stays within this area above its 200 weekly exponential moving average, which is the white line coming through, then we're going to remain bullish, right? But I want to focus in, and as I had said before, we can see the rejections on the weekly 50 SMA and the weekly 50 EMA. You can see those in there. But as long as we're above that weekly 200, it's looking pretty good. And again, we'll just look for those wicks to come down an early part of a week and then kind of get that closed position back above. Okay, so the range in market market for XRP doesn't bother me. It looks like a huge opportunity to continue to build out the positions before what happens next, which is a big surge to the upside. That move to the upside, depending on kind of which camp you want to sit on, you can be targeting out $10, $100, $10,000, $589, whatever it may be that you believe XRP is going to, right? There's many different logical rationales for each of those numbers. For me, though, I look at the market and I say the most probable area is going to be somewhere between $5.59 and $11.26, right? That's going to be the kind of range that you see here on the chart. That's the range that I'm kind of expecting. And of course, that can be blown out of the water by the case between Ripple and SEC, because there's going to be thousands of % gain made on that, in my opinion. And of course, we have to also understand that if XRP gets that kind of green light, the big green tick to say that it's not a security, or even if it gets classified as a security, the output generally is the same. You now have an understanding of how to proceed, right? When you're in this kind of gray area, it puts off institutional level investors because they don't understand, or then there isn't clarity as to whether or not what they're buying is a security or not. It doesn't really generally matter whether it's a security or whether it is not a security, as long as there is a framework of what the institutions have to do, right? Whether that's Ripple, who has to sell it, there's going to be rules about how they do that. And then, of course, anyone who's owning that and how they transact with it, there's going to be rules and regulations around that. Now, I believe that XRP is not a security. It doesn't fit the Howey test. And I do believe that actually you need to have a new test put in place to fit digital assets, right? Because the legacy issue here, basically the Howey test doesn't really fit, and maybe a new test needs to be formed, and maybe there will be something called a Ripple test in the future. You never know, right? It'll be very interesting to see how all of this unfolds. But for the most part, in terms of price expectations, I think we have some fantastic runs to the upside to come, regardless of whether you believe it's going to $5, $12, $100, $10,000, right? Whatever it may be. I think we're going to see some phenomenal gains on XRP. It obviously has taken many years to kind of get to this point. Obviously, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission and their corrupt individuals have basically delayed significant progress from the US standpoint, but Ripple's business is flourishing elsewhere around the world. So I'm not too concerned. I think for the most part, we have some pretty interesting gains to be made here for XRP in that kind of longer term. Now, guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. If you did find it useful and informative, do smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe. And if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out this video right here where we're discussing the potential of a 100x altcoin.